Terry, I'm going to let you come on up and introduce your guest.
Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Howdy out there in the ether. Y'all, so good to see everybody. Look, it's Brandon, service above self. This next person I'm about to introduce, we all know. It's James, according to our ABCs, but at the end of the day, he is served in so many ways. I know y'all seen his bio or have heard a lot of what he's done, but I'll just throw a couple of things out there. One, before becoming county judge, he served as county commissioner here in Burnet County, I believe, for 8 years. And, what I find interesting is the number of organizations for which he participates outside of his judgeship that you may not be aware of. I'm going to just name a couple here. Capital Area Council of Governments, that's usually the counties in and around Travis County in our capital, come together. The Capital Area Regional Transportation Planning Organization, which has a lot to do in terms of our roads. The Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, and this little organization we call Pernaus Electric Co-op, y'all probably have heard of. He serves as a leadership position across all those organizations. Not only that, he's been recognized by Governor Bush and Perry by being requested, in which he has served in multiple committees during those administrations. But I'm going to tell you one thing about James Oakley, is when I'm on the House floor, I never have to worry about getting a call from him on certain legislations when it hits the House floor. He is not shy about telling me how I should vote in some considerations. And I'm going to tell you, when you look at the multiple counties that I had, I could always depend to hear what's best for our constituents back home. And I am so very, very grateful for that, because there's had to be a lot of hard decisions, because, there's a couple of counties out there that, well, let's frankly, if you watch the news, they don't do such a good job. And the legislature has a tendency, if they're going to punish one, they end up punishing all. And he keeps us from going overboard when we know there are certain entities out there. A great advocate for the citizens of Burnet County, I want to present our friend and county judge, James.
Wow, we're all centered up here. Okay, good. Hello out there. Nice intro. I can't put on that Colonel voice if I can, but I look around the room, see a lot of faces I've seen for a long time, and that's good. But folks that I still interact with, and Judge Jones, we've been at it since 1998. Whenever I came into the picture, 24 years ago.
We did a lot together.
We did, and we still got more to go. What all do we talk about what's going on in Burnet County? I know your next speaker is going to be at the next meeting is going to be Herb Darling to talk about growth, but I do want to touch on that. We continue to grow. It's just amazing. It seems to be the topic that you always want to talk about and think that, well, okay, it's never been this more. It just keeps increasing. Not only we're growing at an increasing rate. It's just amazing. Herb will give you some stats next meeting on the address requests that are in the unincorporated areas of Burnet County. Not all of Burnet County, just the unincorporated. And we've right at double in the last couple of years on the number of folks. So what does that mean? It means a lot more folks moving here that aren't used to living in the country. So they call 911 when they hear a shot. Well, it's actually a guy, deer hunting. I had one the other day, someone reported an explosion. Well, we tracked it down. It's actually a guy that was hunting deer, so I lit off a 300 Win Mag, and the guy thought it was an explosion. Well, no, it's just deer hunting. Welcome to the hill country. So being Burnet County judge is a true honor that I'm just humbled every day to get to do. And there is a lot of aspects to it. Anything from dealing with the legislature and reminding them on some piece of legislation that has good intent, but it's like, hold on, did you think about this? What it actually does when the rubber hits the road, what it actually does over here. And it's great conversations. It's an educational, and the relationship that Terry and I have is amazing. I've talked to him at 7 in the morning or 10 at night. And, it's just great to have that connectivity. And when the legislature joins, those 140 days, some of us get scared, so it's like, wait a minute, it's not broke, don't fix it. But no, there's good intent. And I can't imagine playing the games. I'll call it games in a lighthearted way that they have to put up with at the big pink building. Our pink building at the square is a little different. We don't have those sort of games. Just have a lot of things going on. My job entails anything from dealing with the legislature to, we've got 23 buildings, over 100 air conditioner units. That's a lot of plumbing and a lot of mechanical stuff that goes down. I'm over all of that. I'm over the libraries, emergency management, the 911 addressing. The list goes on things that just come directly under my umbrella. And so every day is a new day, and a new calamity hits that you didn't expect. And I get to work very closely with the county attorney. One of the beauties of county government is there's lots of checks and balances. No one gets to do one thing all on their own. We have the county auditor that is appointed by the district judges that oversee the financial operations of the county. So that's a good check and balance there. The county attorney, district attorney, make sure that everything is done in accordance with the laws, and we depend on them a lot. You can relate with that. So among the things, and this is just I feel like reminds me of having the Daybreak Rotary skeet shoot. My lead is going in all different directions this morning because there's so many different things you can talk about. But over the last since I came in 19, that's how old you are. You start saying 19 in 2015. We've been able to do a lot of good things, including the complete redo of the Ocala Community Center. If you ever know what that is, it's on the other end of the county, but it's an old school that the county owns. Once it went to the Consolidated Independent School District, it fell back to us. Built in 1905, but we did a total rebuild of that using tourism dollars, not your property tax dollars, to completely redo a community center out there to make it available for public, and it's being utilized today. I'm really proud of that building, and we'll check it out at just Google up Ocala Community Center. And it looks like we're fixing to do another one in Briggs, the old red brick building up that way. They're looking at donating it to the county, and it just needs some TLC, and it's a great facility for long-term use. And, when you're in the remote areas of the county, you need places like that. And so it's just we can gather here at the Blue Bonnet, but not everybody has that available to them. In the name of old buildings, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our old historic jail on the square, built in 1884. That has been a project that has been near and dear to me. I've always wanted to take it on. We had to empty it first because juvenile probation was in there, but we worked out a deal with the school to move offices, get AgriLife over there out of the Annex and move things around. It's a big domino shift. But about 3 years ago, we were able to empty out the old historic jail, and that had been converted into offices where they put in drop ceilings and ran all the HVAC and kind of mutilated it in some regards. But anyway, we ripped all that out and did a complete redo of that building. I'm talking, everything, new electrical, plumbing, HVAC, new ceilings, stoutened up the truss system. It was really fine, but we thought, let's fix it up while we're there. Bottom line, it's finally coming to a head. After all of this, we are going to be able to open that up to the public. I'm going to have a little sneak peek opening reception on it on February the 10th, mainly to honor Bonnie Fox, whose maiden name was Riddell, and she was a little girl that grew up in that jail. She's 95 years old today, and she's going to be there and reminisce. And there's a lot of folks that used to feed prisoners there, go hang out with Miss Riddell, the Wallace Riddell's wife. She was the longest serving sheriff in Texas for 39 and a half years. He held that record. I think he was beaten not too long ago. But, we moved his statue over to be in front of the jail. It used to be in front of the courthouse. It just didn't make sense because he lived at the jail. So one of the first things we did when we came in was to move it over there. And so I just really look forward to y'all being able to come over there and check out that building. We will have somebody manning it, if you will. I should say Manning because her name's Blair Manning, that is going to take over the tourism. I just thought of that. That's going to take over the tourism position, and we'll have some set hours that'll be available. The beauty is it's going to have, just as I've segued earlier with the meeting places, the upper cell rooms will be available for community meetings and whatnot, nonprofits. We don't want to compete with the hotel, of course, but it'll be available for use, and it's got a full kitchen inside. So there's that. Okay, on new buildings, about just over 20 years ago, Judge, we sat down and we drew out and figured out to build two new district courtrooms at the North Annex. That was trying to get my numbers right. It was just over $4 million back then, and of course it was paid for quick with a 7-year tax note. But that was a great project. We decided, everything seems to be built for a 20-year. This will last us 20 years. We need to do something that a 20-year window. Well, that 20 years is come and gone, and guess what? That facility those courtrooms are not big enough. They have to move a lot of the voir dires over to the AgriLife, even before the pandemic, to have them large trials to get enough people in there. We just didn't build it big enough at the time. We thought it was way big at the time, but guess what? So it's getting used a lot. What I'm alluding to there is we have hired an architect, and we're looking at building a new multi-purpose building directly across the highway from that. The county owns 4 acres there, and we're going to be able to use this American Recovery Plan Act money, ARPA money we call it, to help build that building. But it will be a multi-purpose big room that can accommodate big trials, but be used for other things as well. And we'll move the tax office over there as well. Sherry Fraser's office will move over there as well. And what that will do is allow the current tax office to be used by adult probation. Going to merge all that together so they can use the drive-through window for people paying their fines and fees. That becomes a somewhat pandemic resistant proof facility by doing that, and it allows that facility to be locked down as a court facility. So I know we're on a timeline here, and I can just rattle on, talk about exciting things like what's the current jail population, what are all this, that, and the other. But everything's moving very smooth at the county. We have about a $45 million expenditure budget, and about every 2 weeks we have a payroll of about $1 million. We've got just over 350 employees. We too have some opportunities, have some slots open at the sheriff's office and for deputies and jailers. So in line with some of the other industries that are having a hard time finding help, we too are in that position. But with that, I'd really stop there and see if there's any questions amongst this group, or I guess you're able to monitor what's going on technology wise.
Yeah, you'll be able to hear them if one of them has a question. And if you have a question here, he'll repeat the question, and I'll give you one. Talk about the low water crossing below the dam.
The low water crossing below the dam. So when I came into office in 1998, when I won that election, came in sworn in January 99. Very soon after that, I got hit up by some folks about this idea about this having a crossing down below Wirtz Dam. And they said, oh yeah, it's been talked about for years. And just made a lot of sense to me. And so I dug into it some more, and turns out having a crossing there started out in the 1974 Burnet County Transportation Plan. It was signed off on by all the cities around and whatnot. And I started digging into it more, and I was trying to get some traction on what we could do there. I wanted to do a modified low water crossing that you could close off during flood events. And LCRA didn't like that idea. As a commissioner in the south end, I didn't have a lot of support from folks on the north end. And so we got some studies done. We were able to get a license plate study done in 2005 that actually showed how much it would be used. It indicated about 10% of this traffic right out here would use that bridge instead of being right here. Well, at that time, some of the folks were like, I'm not sure we want to lose that traffic here in Multiple Falls. I said, well, think ahead about 20 years. And guess what? It's gone crazy. And now we've got to find something. That's a little bit of the background. When I came back as county judge, I told everybody I'm going to put some salt in my buckshot, and we're going to get that bridge going. And guess what? We've done that. Got the right people involved. Got through Campo, which was one of the organizations I'm involved with. We were able to secure, did some more studies, did public outreach. On their public outreach for that project, it was the largest response they've ever had on any public outreach campaign. And this includes things that happen in downtown Austin and a lot more metropolitan areas. But of that, 87% of the folks said they would use that bridge. They saw it as a good thing. They would use it. It became a poster child actually within the Federal Highway Administration on how a public outreach should be done. Ashby Johnson, who's the executive director, went up and gave a presentation on it. That resulted in an allocation of $3 million to get the bridge designed, schematic, environmental studies, and all that. It's probably about a quarter way through that as we speak now. So LCRA has been great to work with. TxDOT has been, first of all, let me just say, getting a new TxDOT facility is monumental. It's a big thing just to get improvements to an existing road, but to get a new facility is a really big deal, and this is happening. They recognize what's going on with this bridge. The beauty of it is the head engineer for TxDOT over the whole state has a place in South Austin, but his ranch is in Abilene. So he comes through Marble Falls every Friday, and he sees the traffic and sees, oh yeah, we got to do something. So they were actually here a couple of weeks ago, had him and Phil Wilson, the general manager of LCRA, and our district engineer. They wanted to see it from a boots on the ground perspective, not as somebody that was being speculative or being questioning things. They're excited about it, and so that was a good thing. It's set to we estimate, of course, material prices are going through the roof, labor and everything. The original estimate was right around $28 to $30 million on this project. You know, we'll have to see how things escalate on that, but it's not local dollars. This is all our federal gas tax dollars. And when you pay at the pump, this is just an allocation of that coming back to us. It's a unique deal. We've got a lot of utility relocation to do, and PEC's been great to work with. There's a lot of opportunity there to modernize the infrastructure that's down there below there now, maybe put in a substation, rethink how the grid operates to serve this area. But bottom line is that project is set to be on the August of 2023 TxDOT commission hearing to be in what's called the UTP. And so it'll be up for funding in the fiscal 24. That'll all coincide with the plans will be done. We're told Greg Haley with KC Engineering is doing the work on that. He did the 620 bridge below Mansfield Dam when he was with TxDOT. He also did the bridge over the Pedernales on 71. So he knows what he's doing, and he's here locally, and that's a great thing. But the timing of it is he thinks he'll be set for the documents and the drawings to be done and ready to go to bid in spring of 2024, which I wanted to make sure the funding was going to be right there at the same time. And it looks like everything's going to pan out to where it should happen that way, with about a 2-year construction time. So my hope is that we'd be driving on it in 2026. I'm really excited about that. It's a great thing for the area. Someone up in Ocala and Briggs won't use it. Someone here will. And one of the things that's really great about it is Johnny Campbell with Marble Falls Area EMS has stated that for his calls off into that area, Cottonwood, Horseshoe Bay that he covers there, it would cut about 22 minutes off his response time. That's a long response time cut. Now, then it also, so for emergency services, the school systems, on the busing, it just really makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited to be a part of that project. There is that. That's yeah. So it's about a third way through the engineering funding in 24, construction for a couple years. And the beauty of that project is, oftentimes you have disruption during construction, where you have all the, like what happened south of Marble Falls here recently. It finally finished up. The beauty of this is it's all behind a curtain. You're building it. You have a ribbon cutting ceremony, and here you go. So it's it's not going to be a cause of problem. Yes, sir.
How many lanes will the bridge be? If there's a project include widening the road going through?
Okay. The question is, what would be the footprint of the bridge? How many lanes and whatnot? It will be one travel lane each way, plus an emergency lane on each side. The road going to it will be the same footprint. We're going to have to expand our right of way a little bit. We've got 80 foot of right of way on the north end, and we have to have a minimum of 120. And we're working with the folks on the west side of the north side to get that donated. Then on the other side where Horseshoe Bay Marine and all that is, see if they had the bridge they could use. That was an ambulance went by if y'all didn't hear it online. So it's basically a 2-lane road. There's not a desire at this point. I think that'll handle the capacity for more than 20 years. So, yes, ma'am.
So is there anything going on in Burnet County about infrastructure for transportation to help, public transportation, ease the load of people who live remotely and don't have a way to get around?
Well, so as far as busing per se, the question is there a plan on public transportation in Burnet County? Well, the demand is not as much for, say, in a metropolitan area. Where the demand is for the parks system. And that's for folks that are needing a ride to the hospitals, to the pharmacy, a little bit more that direction. Capital Area Rural Transit System is what that is. They have their buses up here by the old depot up by your office, and then in Burnet, they're up by the North Annex. But insofar as public mass transit, no, there's not. Of course, Capital Metro owns the rail lines that are all out this way. And there's been some talk about expansion of that. Now, that's their plan. Right now, the rail lines are pretty dadgum busy with all the rock quarries that are going on there. But there is talk about trying to get, I know City of Granite Shoals is trying to get that rail to come in, and Lano's even talking about it as well. But that's
From a tourism, you start there and from there it ranges to a train.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like the steam train deal. And Burnet is one that starts out as tourism. I hadn't been hit with that question before.
It's integral for the world we live in for quality of life of our citizens, because that is the biggest, when we go to all of our issues between CPS and the justice system and anybody who's not, affluent in our community, that is the biggest barrier, is they can't get to work. They can't get to, take their drug test, and then they're just dropping out of the system frequently, and recidivism on crime and all the things that society deals with. That's one thing that can move the needle for the quality of life of these folks.
Well, I personally think, real quickly, the biggest infrastructure we need to accommodate a lot of that connectivity is the information highway. And so for our broadband expansion, and there's some money being thrown out there. My position on that is that doesn't need to come to Burnet County. It doesn't need to come. It needs to come from the top down, dealing with the folks that's what they do. Somehow, even if it was a military exercise, to put in that infrastructure to do it. If you do it all to the county to go out and hire vendors, well, that's going to stop at a jurisdictional line, and that does not make sense. It needs to be all seamless. So my hope is that the federal government would somehow figure out a way, or do it themselves through the military, expand our broadband across the nation. And, I've even thought about it the other day. Some people may cringe at the thought of this, but because it is the information highway, think outside of the box. Why couldn't that be a part of the transportation grid? Because you've got the right of way all there. It's like using the water. There's some folks talked about using that for more water infrastructure, so you could treat that as a commodity and a utility in that regard. But there's the need is certainly there. Some folks maybe thought, oh, you don't need that. Well, trust me, during the pandemic, through remote learning with the schools, just interacting, you have to have reliable broadband to be contemporary today. Simple as that. And I think that's where I would hope that a lot of our federal funds would go to. And I'll say this, I'd rather focus on us, put our oxygen mask on first, than be worried about other countries.
Is property taxes still the primary source of income?
Yes, for counties, property tax is the primary source of income. And I know that the January 31st is the last day to pay your taxes. I don't want to be Mr. Popular up here, but no, about 85% of our revenue is from taxes. The rest is fines and fees and grants, and whatnot. Totally different than cities. One of the biggest things I have to remind some of our state representatives is the difference between cities and counties. There's a huge difference. Yes, we're both local governments, but there's a world of difference between the two. And cities, of course, have utility revenue, sales tax revenues, but counties are totally reliant on that. Our tax rate is 0.399. It's down from when I first came to office. It was 4215, so it's about a 5% reduction. But our values are up. So but with all that growth and people coming in and saying there was an explosion, well, just some guy deer hunting. Guess what? They call 911, and the demand on deputies is huge. The demand for the court system, the indigent legal defense, indigent health care, all the things that we're required to do by the state. That's another difference from the counties. Counties do what we're told to do by the county, by the state. We're a subdivision of the state. So they tell us to do something, we do it. And cities are a little bit different. They can have a little bit more free reign, things that they want to do and that are limited really by their charter, unless there's a state law that specifically says they can't do it. So we're always sensitive at the county level, believe it or not, to what the state says that you have to do. And, so one of the things, and I'll say this, whenever the state legislature wants to exempt somebody from property taxes because they're a disabled vet, which is a very honorable thing. Okay, or a spouse of, or whatnot, anytime those, just know that anytime that happens, that's a shift to those that do pay taxes. So it doesn't go away. The costs don't go away. You still have to provide the services and whatnot. And I don't want to get into a big debate on should you do that or not. It's just a realization that when you do that, or homestead exemptions, that's fine. That's great. I love it. But just know that it becomes a shift because it's simple math. A times B equals C. And if you reduce A, B's got to go up to keep C a constant. And that's kind of where we're at on that. Thunder Rock is within the city limits, and so is Greg Ranch. There's a lot of other subdivisions coming in. We're in the waiting. There's so much more coming our way. Lakeway is growing our way. My wife's the city manager of Lakeway, so I get a little intel from that direction. There's just so much coming our way, and people are getting out of California, they're getting out of Houston, they're getting out of wherever, and they're coming here and they want to move to the Austin area. They go, okay, what looks good around Austin? Oh, look, we got the Highland Lakes. We got 5 lakes. We got lakes and hills, and that's where we'll go. And it's amazing to me what prices are happening and how these ranches are selling, and they'll have a Saturday morning tent sale and they will sell out. It's just amazing to me.
Does Burnet County have a motto? Because if not, I believe it should be leave what you left there.
Well, my motto is keep Burnet County way west of weird. So no, you know what, we want to embrace our heritage here, and that's one of the reasons I like doing the old buildings, the old community centers, the old jail. We need to honor what we have. We need to embrace change. But we need to make sure everybody understands, what we've got is really good. And we might not need to be like where some folks came from, but we'll be open-minded and be contemporary. But here's the deal. We, and just like the state service, we're here to serve. And, it's customer service. It is not rocket science. We do have a rocket plant and burn it up by bridge called Firefly. But this isn't rocket science, what we do. It's called customer service, answering the phone, talking with people, and putting things into terms that they understand and learning from them. And I'm just tickled at what I'm able to be involved with. I'm honored. I kind of got to pinch myself sometimes to go, wow, I'm in this spot where I get to make these decisions, make these phone calls, and make things happen. And it's just feels natural to me. And I appreciate y'all's time and allowing me to be here today. Looks like the hook's getting ready to pull.
They have this fancy piano.
Oh, thank you. Thank
So
you.
there you go. Thank you for coming. I know
Absolutely.
you're busy this
I
time
gotta
of
rush
year.
off. We got court